Bee music. Keepers of the secret sound of sunlight, no job too small. This is the cheerful, earless tuning of the music of the spheres. Oh, lunch-pail Pythagoreans, who'd have guessed the crystal nocturne of the cosmos was first scored for miniature fun-fur kazoos? Deaf as tiny Beethovens, you bend the goldenrod beneath your weight. In your toolbox, Euclid and the sextant of your sunstone eye. Ah, little nectar mules, you scholars of the azimuth, ah, perfumed geometers of the fields. Bone Song. Bones, my thanks for your support, your efforts to convince the world that I can stand up for myself. Thanks for your patience and for being home to certainties, though they are often sad. For beauty more than skin deep, for the cheekbone and the pelvis, for the beauty of horses, thank you. Also for my love of moonlight, the dream case of the skull, for being moonlight in me, minarets and tendon spindles, labyrinth of the internal ear. Thank you especially for music, and for the leg bone and the thigh bone, for the elegant contraptions of the wrist and knee, those nuts and bolts of movement and the root of how we mean. Thanks for the orange crate for my innards, hoop ladder of the breath, and the reminder that dying, like everything else, takes time. Blood believes in busyness and spring, but you are winter in us, ancient ice. My thanks, white sister, inner eggshell, flowering of rock. Border Station. There had been flooding all that summer, I recall, acres of gray-brown footage from the Midwest. But with reports confined to property and human interest, the reasons for the land's incontinence suppressed, those images had skimmed past, seeming, as usual, not quite real. The day had been hot, clear. We'd eaten supper on the porch and, later, quite late, had turned the radio on upstairs. Some thought of midnight news, perhaps. I don't remember now. The signal we pulled in, strongly because we weren't far from the border then, was the last half hour of a Brewers-Red Sox game. It was coming from Milwaukee, top of the ninth, 2 out, the Brewers leading, and we hadn't been listening long when the announcer, between a line out and Hatcher's coming to the plate, commented on the weather. There'd been a rain delay. It had been raining heavily before, but now was easing up, just a light shower falling, though a lot of lightning was still visible to the east and south. Raised on the prairies, I could see it clearly, suddenly could see the whole scene clearly. The crowd dwindling, several umbrellas, the glittering aluminum of vacated seats, the misted loaf of arc-lit light, the night, deeper by contrast, thick and wet and brown around it, flickering. And at the same time I was struck too, like looking out across a huge relief map, by the hundreds of miles between our bedroom and Milwaukee, by that continental distance, and was overtaken inexplicably by sorrow. It was as though, in that moment of deep focus, I had tasted the idea of America, as though it really might have had something to do with baseball and radio and the beauty of the storms that can form in the vast light above the plains, or, no, extremity of some kind, clarity or tenderness, as though, that close to the end, levels already rising on the levied banks again, the mistakes might have been human. Not justifiable, but as though some sort of story might be told, simply, from defeat, without apology, the way you might describe the fatal accident. Not to make sense of it, but just to say, too late but still to say, something had happened. There was blood everywhere, we hadn't realized, By the time we noticed, rivers of it, nothing could be done. Musicians. I pass a bunch of musicians in the street. It's about 12:30, rehearsal just over there, standing around outside the side door of the church. A good rehearsal, and it's April. They're laughing, horsing around, talking about shoes or taxes, where to go for lunch, anything except what their heads are full of. It's a kind of helplessness. You can see they're still breathing almost in unison, like people the searchlight has passed over and spared. Their attention lifts, swerves, settles. Even the gravel dust stuttering at their feet is coherent. Passing Sangudo. Sangudo of the long hill and the river flats, of the long shadows in the river valley, Sangudo of the early evening in the summertime on the way out Highway 43 after a day in the city. How ugly I used to think your name, and how, unhappy in the car, unhappy at the prospect of unwelcome dressed as welcome that awaited us, I believed, as we all believe, that growing up meant never having to come back. How, much though I deplored our town, I was glad it wasn't you, that much smaller, that much shabbier, the mud a little deeper, the storefronts just that much more stark. It must have rained most days that we drove past, because it rained most days then, or so it seems. But of course plenty of times it must have been winter, it being winter most of the year then, or so it seems. And indeed the one recurring nightmare of childhood, tobogganing down the riverbank and falling through the ice, with my father for some reason, as well as my sister, and all of us drowning silently, the ice growing rigid over us in jagged chunks. That winter dream was set outside Sangudo, just where the highway crosses the Pembina, 20 feet downstream from the bridge. So it is mildly surprising, like discovering at 40 your handwriting closely resembles your great-uncle's, though you've never met. Surprising, I should find, that what I remember now is neither rain nor snow, but long shadows, early summer twilight, the sweet, forgiving roll of the land, the car's movement through it, steady, a quiet humming, exactly as it should be, coming from nowhere, destined nowhere, simply moving, driving past Sangudo, over the dark brown Pembina, up the long hill, home.